It feels like I just did this video a few months ago, but things keep changing and questions keep happening. And it's around She-Hulk. In other words, what are they doing with She-Hulk exactly? What's going on? A character that seemed to be very simple has gotten very complicated, maybe. So let me try and explain. Hey everybody, this is Perch. There continue to be a lot of questions around She-Hulk as a character, and I think on some level, I think this would be an opportunity if you were at Marvel to say, why do we keep getting questions about She-Hulk? And what are we doing wrong that our fans seem to struggle to kind of keep up with what's going on? Now, in full disclosure, I think I have a pretty good handle on what's going on. I don't think it's that complicated, but I think enough people have expressed confusion that, well, clearly I'm doing this video, but also it's when you work for a company, it's often easy to get tunnel vision, to get blinders on about your weak spots. That's why companies hire outside focus groups and why they do these things, why they get feedback. And one of the things about comics that seems to really be true right now is there's a lot of blinders on around the industry. The people who are working within it, the writers, the editors, the creators, etc., they understand what's going on. They've been there for all the summits and everything else, but not all of that has been translated to the page. So they're leaving some of the fans behind. And this is a problem where, again, focus groups, just basic polling would be pretty damn helpful. But, for whatever reason, that continues to be a struggle within comics to actually do that. And there's often a lot of arrogance, by the way. If you bring these things up, you'll get things like, well, only stupid people don't understand that. Or I talked to some fans at a con and they all get it, so I don't know what the problem is. That, again, is the trap. And you see it with gaming companies, with software, with all kinds of things. It's I talk to my small bubble and my friends, and they're all on the same page. They all get it. But you're missing your market. Your larger market is not with you. It's not, by the way, this isn't criticism. It's confusion. They don't know how to use your product. I get that. I'll get back to the topic in a second, but this is something that Apple found out with their iPhones as they adjusted different parts of the UI. There's a belief within Apple that Siri, the voice assistant, made a lot of sense. Everybody got it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew how to use Siri because the people within Apple ate their own dog food, which means they all started using Siri. So they got very comfortable with how it worked. But when they actually started looking at the analytics and the stats, they found that very few of the customers were using Siri. And the biggest reason why is they didn't understand how it worked and they didn't understand how it added value. And so the company had ran ahead of their customers. And I see a lot of that in comics. So back to She-Hulk. So She-Hulk existed for a long time in comics as Bruce Banner's cousin, kind of went around. She-Hulk would get this is always part of her character, that when she got really, really mad or super raged, that she'd get even more bulky and more Hulk-like. And we saw that in Avengers Disassembled, where she just completely lost herself to rage, and she was a big kind of hulking monster. I bring this up because people sometimes point to the John Byrne run of She-Hulk and say, hey, what gives? She wasn't all bulky. She had a more feminine form, and that's the She-Hulk I know. Well, the reality is the bulky She-Hulk has always been there too. It's just, Byrne had a Jennifer Walters who was at peace with herself, and the She-Hulk had kind of been integrated, so she wasn't going back to being Jennifer Walters, and she was just kind of staying in that She-Hulk form. And she had reconciled with some patients and other things. And so it made sense that her form was stable. So anyway, fast forward a ways, and She-Hulk gets to be pals with Captain Marvel, and they go to attack Thanos. And basically that, she gets killed by Thanos, or critically wounded. And there's this weird scene where she kind of dies. They do the whole flatline bit, but then they're like, no, she didn't. Even though we showed a flatline, she didn't actually flatline. She was in a coma. She was okay, and then she came out of it, and she was gray instead of green, and all scarred up. And she had PTSD from this horrible traumatic event. This led to a solo series. It was by Mariko Tamaki that was not well received, I would say, in general. There's some people who liked it, but I mean, financially, it wasn't well received. It didn't burn up the charts. And then she kind of made her way into the Avengers, but she is kind of stuck in this bulkier form. Now, what is true about She-Hulk that was never identified well in the comic is that this all made sense. She had reconciled herself under the John Byrne run, and for a lot of what people remember from the 80s and 90s, but then she lost that inner peace. And she reverted to kind of her earlier, more chaotic mode where she wasn't as in control of her rage, and her form reflected that. And that made sense, but it wasn't ever explained that way well in the comics. You kind of had to infer it. And this is the case where at Marvel, they all got the message. They all took this as an evolution of her form, but nobody really explained this well to the fans. So confusion then arose. All right, so then she gets into the Avengers, and she's bulky, and she's big, and she's kind of more... The only part that doesn't make sense in all this, by the way, is that they've written her in Jason Aaron's Avengers as being this huge, bulky kind of rage form, not in control, and she talks like the Hulk, like me, like Smash, and she's horny all the time for some reason. And anyway, they have this kind of... But then they'll show her thoughts. They'll have like thought bubbles, and her thought bubbles are Jennifer Walters like, oh, I think I will, conduct this legal document, and so it's like they're having her yell out, me rage Hulk, and then inside her head she's in control of herself. So that's just weird. There's something that doesn't quite line up, but okay, whatever. In the grand scheme of things, not a problem. So then just recently, over in Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, and this is one of those cases where I hand it to Ewing, he is trying to reconcile all these pieces together. So Ewing basically has it that the Hulk can't die, he's immortal, and then he's kind of revealing that all the Hulk creatures are this way, and She-Hulk as well. So he's going back and saying she actually did die during the attack with Thanos, which actually, nicely closes up a weird little plot hole that doesn't make a lot of sense. And potentially have a story in the future, like that the other Marvel heroes know that she died and come back to life and kind of lied to her about this coma bit. That's interesting. So I handed it to Al Ewing there of helping fill in the gaps that were left. So that's the current state of She-Hulk. That's where she's at. Is this good? Is this bad? Well, that's up to you to decide. But let me know if you like the current She-Hulk, the storyline, the writing, the art. The art's funny because it does feel like there's a bit of a contest right now at Marvel to see who can draw the most screwed up version of Hulk. I mean, there's some bizarre, art has taste for everyone, but there are some bizarre versions of her running around out there. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.